Fox. Stamps.com. Enter Fox. Go right now to Stamps.com. Enter Fox.
Hundreds of doses of the Moderna coronavirus vaccine have been ruined in Wisconsin by improper handling.
The Advocate Aurora Health Clinic in Grafton said 50 vials of the Moderna vaccine, about 500 doses, were taken out of a freezer unit to get to other items and not put back. A subsequent investigation found the error to be unintentional. Some of the vials were still able to be used because the doses have a 12-hour window for use after being in cold storage. According to guidelines, once removed from a freezer, the vaccine must be administered and cannot be refrozen. Clinic officials say they regret this happened. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
The Justice Department says it will not bring federal charges against 2 Cleveland police officers in the 2014 killing of 12-year-old Tamir Rice. Responding to a 911 call of a man with a gun outside a city recreation center, one of the officers shot and killed Rice within seconds of their arrival when they say he reached for his waistband where he had what turned out to be a pellet gun. Federal prosecutors say there's not enough evidence to make the case the officers willfully violated the boy's civil rights. Just in time for those New Year's resolutions, the government is out with its twice-a-decade dietary guidelines.
Cake, candy, and ice cream are still off the list. The new guidelines suggest breast milk only for the first 6 months and no added sugar under age 2. This year's guidelines stop short from scientists' recommendations, leaving sugar intake at less than 10% of calories instead of 6%, and alcohol limits for men at 2 drinks per day instead of 1, like the women. The guidelines are updated every 5 years and used to set standards for school lunches and other programs. More information and an app are available at choosemyplate.gov. Ann Carrick, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
We didn't invent great sound. We perfected it.
We are controlling transmission.
WLTK DB. Let's talk.
Alternative Talk Radio.
WLTKDB.com. Views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest. Any content provided by our host or guest are of their opinion and do not intend to harm any religions, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the show.
Well, they say that you're a fool. You believe in magic.
I'm Paranormal Pete, and I'm on a journey to seek answers to the questions that have crossed all of our minds. What happens to us when we die? Is there an afterlife? I'm a regular guy who discovered the gift of psychic mediumship in my 30s. My passion for history and the unknown have put me right here, right now. My mantra for anything paranormal is, we don't know much and anything is possible. Join me as we find our way through the stories, evidence, and experiences of the paranormal and beyond in search of answers, even if that leads to more questions. Are you with me?
Hey everybody, it's your host Pete Orbea with the Paranormal Pete Show, coming back after a Christmas break. And it's Tuesday the 29th. Holy smokes, we're almost to the end of the year. And what a hell of a year it has been, hasn't it? And I think we're all looking forward to the new year. So I want to wish everybody a happy new year celebration here in a couple days. And hope it's a safe one. And I know myself, I'm really looking forward to 2021, but still realizing, we got to hang on a little bit longer before things get a little more normal. That's why I love the paranormal, though, I guess. And so welcome to Let's Talk Radio and the Paranormal Pete Show. Jump on the station chat, and you can communicate with me through the station chat at WLTKDB.com. And so hop on there if you've got a question, and then we'll be able to answer it. I'm also streaming on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Paranormal Pete Show. So, and I have, hey, Linda, I have that up as well, so I can try and catch comments and questions through the Facebook live feed as well. But it's easiest to go through the station chat at WLTKDB.com, and it's Let's Talk Radio. So, once again, I'm your host, Pete Orbea, and welcome. Tonight, I have a very special guest. And, well, really, all my guests are very special. But this one I'm really looking forward to, especially with it being the holidays. And, you start thinking about family members and furry family members that are no longer with us. And what better way to dive into that with pet loss and animal communicator Karen Anderson? So I'm super stoked. She's going to be coming in after the first break, 20 after the hour. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about with her. She's always has a lot going on, and her story is just so cool. So I'm really looking forward to bringing that to you guys. If you haven't seen Karen speak or attended a workshop of hers or had a reading from her, so it's going to be really special. And we all have a special love for our furry family members, and she has helped hundreds of people with pet loss, and so it's pretty amazing. um, and I've got a great lineup of shows coming up for January. To makes me even more excited about the new year. And so coming up in January, I've got guests like Ben Robison. He's going to be on January 5th, and he is his group is called the Autonomous Studies of the Enigmatic and Paranormal, and or better known as ASAP. And so I got Ben coming on. He's an awesome investigator, researcher. He's really tech savvy, really knows equipment and stuff like that. So he's got a great approach to investigating. So I'm looking forward to speaking with him. And then on the 12th, second episode in January, we've got my good friend and mentor, William Becker, Paranormal Insights. And it's always a fun time talking with William. And we'll have a lot to talk about there. And then the next show after that, I'm super excited. I have Rick Hale, who's an author and paranormal researcher and investigator, and he's part of the Shadow Initiative, which is a new paranormal show that you can watch. Look it up; it's the Shadow Initiative, and he's also got SpookyIsles.com. And I've been wanting to meet Rick for a long time and trying to get him out to the Port Gamble Ghost Conference. And someday we'll get him out here for that. But I'm super stoked to have him on the show on the 19th. And then on the 26th, the last show of the month, I have another good friend and someone I consider a mentor as well in the paranormal field, Mr. Michael White, with Paranormal Research and Investigations in Washington. And he's just I've learned so much from him about investigating, critical thinking, and all that kind of stuff. So we've got a great lineup of shows coming up in January. So I'm super stoked about that. Again, I want to wish everybody a happy new year. And I hope that, and I have to do this myself still. I guess I'm procrastinating, but I hope that everyone can stop at least before the new year and really take a look at, hey, did I learn anything this year? Did I learn about myself? I think with all the pandemonium and stuff going on this year, um, I was, worked from home a lot the majority of the time, and got to spend some really good time with my kids and my wife. And I think a lot of other people did too. And I know circumstances have been pretty strenuous on everybody, but I'm hoping everybody can find something that they learned during this year about yourself. Did you take any time to do any introspection? And that's always something good to do. No matter what point in life or how great of a year it's been or not, it's always good to do a little reflection. And so I hope everybody out there can at least take a few minutes and, hey, did you learn something? Is it good or bad? If it's good, great. If it's bad, good. It's something, you can work on. Maybe that's your New Year's resolution, um, which I don't really set New Year's resolutions anymore. I just kind of go with the flow because that's the kind of person I am. But if you like to set New Year's resolutions, maybe something from your self reflection would be a great New Year's resolution for you. So just don't forget that. I always end every show with a toast about you know, living in the present, being in the present. And, it's something that I think everybody should practice more and more. So, yeah, everybody just take a few minutes, before the end of the year. Maybe it's right before midnight, whatever, but hope y'all can look inside and the trick to looking outward is to look inward first. So, but let's get on with the show here. Now we've done a little housekeeping. Um, so Karen Anderson, my guest tonight, is she deals primarily with pet loss and pet communication, and so I thought it'd be really cool to talk about a couple of stories that involve pets and the afterlife. And I'll share one that I found that I thought was really cool, and then I'll share one of my own from a personal experience that I had. But the first story I want to talk about with spirits of pets, spirits of animals. Now, it's kind of a mixed bag on my ghost walk tours. At one point, I always ask people, I show of hands, how many people feel like your pets can come back after they've passed away, or do your pets hang around you? And it's kind of a mixed bag. It's I'd say probably half the people typically will raise their hand, that they a little less than half to half that will say, yeah, I believe that pets can come back in the afterlife. And if you kind of look at the thinking behind human spirits, well, why couldn't there be animal spirits as well that come back in very much the same way as a human spirit would? And so it's kind of interesting to see how many people really kind of put stock in it and believe in it. But the first story I want to bring to you tonight is out of Gettysburg, good old haunted Gettysburg. And forgive me if I butcher any names for any listeners out there who know how to pronounce these names. I'll do my best. And again, if you want to contribute and add to the story, or maybe you've got a question, jump on the station chat at WLTKDB.com. And again, I'm trying to monitor the Facebook Live stream as well for any comments there. So this story comes out of Gettysburg. And we all know Gettysburg's one of the most haunted places in America, thanks to the Civil War and the battle there. So during that time, there's this place called the Hummelbaugh House that stood as a Union Field Hospital and is known for being the place where Confederate Brigadier General William Barksdale died after becoming wounded in the battle. So the legend has it that after his burial in Gettysburg, his wife traveled to the town with his most loyal hunting hound to exhume his remains and have them brought back to their home in Mississippi. However, upon arriving at his burial site, Barksdale's hound flopped down on his grave and began howling and crying. Barksdale's wife attempted to move the dog, but no matter what she did or what she said, the dog would not budge. All through the night, the hound sat by the grave and howled, and even after the remains were exhumed, the dog stayed. Even after they took his body, the dog stayed there. So Barksdale's wife ultimately, she chose to leave without her husband's loyal companion. In the days following, the locals say no one could get the dog to move, eat, or even drink. And eventually, the poor hound dog passed away next to its master's grave. And to this day, visitors to that house say they can still hear howling coming from the cemetery late at night, especially on the anniversary of Barksdale's death. If you're ever in Gettysburg, don't miss that opportunity, right? When I go there, I want to hear that hound. But amazing story. The loyalty and devotion of Barksdale's dog, his loyal companion. And it's pretty amazing. He wouldn't even move even after the body was taken from the site. So, but the fact that people have heard howling, I mean, it is outdoors, and from a skeptical standpoint, you could say, well, it's outdoors. But I find it interesting that on the anniversary of the guy's death, especially, that's when visitors to that house are hearing it, this howl. So, man's best friend for sure. And I've got a story, personal experience as well. And this one also involves a dog. For all you cat people out there, I love cats too. Um, but the story is about a dog. And I'm still trying to kind of figure it out. It's interesting at the least. So one of the houses I lived in here in Port Gamble, a number of years ago, I think 8 years ago or so, beautiful house built in 1900, and it was barged over to Port Gamble in 1929. And the first people to live there in 1929 were doctors at a new hospital that had opened up in Port Gamble. And a beautiful house. I call it the White House because it looks like the White House. And in this place, so I have a dog. His name's Dino. And he just turned 13. He's an old boy. But when we lived there, he was quite a bit younger. And so, upstairs in this place, well, I always like to ask people too, how many people out there you feel like the creaks and squeaks in your house, right? If you hear a creak, you're like, okay, that's the bathroom door, or oh, that's somebody in the kitchen, or you kind of get to know the creaks and squeaks in your house. And this place was no exception. I mean, I like to joke that a ninja couldn't sneak up on you in this place because it creaked everywhere. So Dino, he would pace back and forth outside in this hallway outside of our bedroom. And he would kind of go back and forth. And it was right at the top of the stairs. And then, I'd usually kind of, eventually get up. And then that was him letting me know he needed to go out and do his business. And one particular morning, I hear him pacing up and down the hallway, and it was super early. And I kept telling him, go lay down. Go, Dino, go lay down. Go lay down. And I just kept hearing the squeaking and creaking of the floor. And so I ultimately rolled over, looked down the hallway, and I see these four legs. There's light colored carpet, dark wood cabinets and stuff. So I could see these like four dark legs turn at the end of the hallway, like he's looking at me. And I swear it's my dog. So I keep saying, go lay down. I'm not getting up. And finally I got, a little TO'd that he wasn't listening to me. And I kind of stormed down the hallway. And when I got there, there was no dog there. And Dino was in another room snoring away, just cutting logs. So it wasn't him. It's a personal experience. So I don't have any of this recorded, but I know I saw a dog. And another quick thing in that house is occasionally Dino would be on the landing on the stairs. There's a big, beautiful staircase, and he'd be on the landing, like growling and snapping at something, hackles up, showing his teeth. And it was always a little unsettling when he would do that because Dino is like the nicest dog ever. He just, pet me, pet me, pet me. He's like that kind of dog. And you couldn't see what he was growling or snarling at, but you had to kind of go and get him off of the stair landing. And I never knew why. It always kind of, freaked me out a little bit because, again, he's like the nicest dog. Now, when other dogs come around, he's going to act like a tough guy, even though he's not. So I just couldn't figure it out. But I later found out that the doctors who moved into that house in 1929, when it was put in Port Gamble, they had a St. Bernard dog. And from what I understand from firsthand stories was that he was very well loved dog, and he would go down every morning to the general store building, and the butcher would give him a bone, and then he would come back and hang out in the front yard, or the other place you would find him all the time is on that stair landing. So once I learned about that from a firsthand story, I kind of it made me think, well, geez, I wonder, Dino's never acted weird towards any person, which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but, he's just a goofy labradope. He's a black lab mix. And so I don't know what to think about it other than that one morning. I know I heard something walking up and down the hallway outside my room. when I looked down the hallway, there was a dog standing there, and the fact that he would growl and stuff at something on the stairs just kind of made me think that, hey, I'm, not 100% sure, but I'm kind of leaning more towards there might be the spirit of a dog in this house. And we never heard any barking or howling, like the Gettysburg Howl. Never had any of that, but certainly, maybe there's something to it there. How many people out there, we're going to go to break here in just a second. How many people out there feel like you've had an experience with a pet who's passed and come back? And we'll kind of dive more into that once we come back. We're going to take our first station break. It's 19 past the hour, and we'll be back with Miss Karen Anderson. We'll see you on the flip side.
We are controlling transmission.
WLTK DB. Let's talk.
Mackie Reiki is a full-service Reiki therapy center offering both in-person and distance Reiki sessions. Reiki is a gentle healing energy that can assist in clearing, repairing, and maintaining energy that is vital for optimal health. Reiki can also assist with anxiety, depression, and even addiction. You can schedule a Reiki session by visiting our website, www.mackeyreiki.com. That's www.mackeyreiki.com.
Patreon is a place for creators. We're one of them. Visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/WLTKDB. Check out all the unique support tiers we offer. You can get early release episodes, station mugs and t-shirts, free station service work, and much more. Help the station reach its $1,000 per month goal to make our station totally ad-free. Patreon.com/WLTKDB. We appreciate your support.
Well, they say that you're a fool. You believe in magic.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Pete Orbea. We're on Let's Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com. Again, if you want to ask questions, go ahead and jump on the station chat. We're also streaming live to my Facebook page, so I'll try and catch comments on there as well. But I'd like to bring in my very special guest this evening, Karen Anderson. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Pete. Thanks so much for having me. I've been so looking forward to this.
Me too, and thank you so much for being on. I feel like, you're like a celebrity, Glad to have you on.
I don't know about that. You're the celebrity.
Yes, so much. Yeah. Well, hey, I want to thank you so much for being here. And I've got there's a lot of different things I know we can talk about. And, tell us a little bit about what is it that you do? I know you as a animal communicator, pet loss consultant. What's your favorite thing to do? What do you do?
Well, I started out just communicating with the animals because I loved them and I had so many of them. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if I understood them on a higher, more spiritual level? And imagine the behavior problems I could solve and the litter box issues I wouldn't have if I could understand them. And it all morphed from there. So what started happening was I began conducting private consultations many, many, many years ago. And just the most incredible and amazing messages started coming through, mind-blowing. And so I decided to document my journey and document those stories. So I wrote 2 books about it. And now I kind of focus on coaching and helping others learn how to do what I do, because we need more animal communicators in the world. This will be a better place. So that's really how it all kind of happened.
So do you feel like anybody can do this?
Everyone except my dad. Forget
it. He's not going for it, huh?
it. No, he still doesn't even, he can't quite get what I do. He thinks I psychoanalyze animals or something. I don't know. So,
It's more like you're psychoanalyzing the people through the
right,
animal.
right. So yeah, everyone except my dad can learn how to do this.
Oh wow.
Love you, Dad, but yeah.
That's
Um,
funny. Well, I think it's interesting then. So, because I kind of feel like with, psychic abilities, that everybody has some sort of psychic ability. So you feel like it's kind of the same with animals. I mean, does it kind of translate where people, animals, does it matter which one for you? Or do you find that people who are mediums, it's easier for them to to start with animal communication after they've done some practice with reading human spirits?
it's such a personal journey. Like I started out never intending to communicate with departed humans. That was not even on my to-do list.
Hmm.
And then they just kept coming in, they just kept butting into my sessions. And then I have medium friends who never intended to communicate with animals, and the animals started butting in. So I think everyone just wants to be heard. And I
Sure.
think we all have a little bit of the ability in us. It's just wherever we put our focus, I think that's where it all really starts. That's where the magic starts to happen is,
Right.
what's your goal as a medium, as a psychic? What is your passion? My passion was the animal, so that's where I put most of my focus. But I think it's very, very much so that if you can connect with departed human spirits, you can also connect with animal energy. It's just a different vibration.
Okay.
For me, anyway, it's a different level of vibration to connect.
Yeah. It sounds like, it kind of speaks to just an overall higher spiritual plane, that whether you're animal, man or woman, you have the same sort of abilities on that spiritual plane. I find that super interesting. Now is I wanted to ask, how many animals, how many pets do you have today?
Oh, God. Michael White's listening, so let's see. How many do I have here? Well, more than 3 cats
Okay.
and 3 dogs,
Okay.
2 horses, and I think 7 hens.
Nice. That's a nice
So,
little group.
but you can see I have a farm, so there's
Yeah.
lots of room. This is actually down the road. This is where I take my walks when it's not snowing and icy cold out.
I was gonna say, are you snowed in?
Yeah, it's not a lot of snow, but it's really cold out.
Yeah, and gets it packed down, and so you're out in Eastern Washington. I'm out in Western Washington, and it's just squishy out.
Yeah,
No snow, just squishy.
yeah, it was really icy today, and I did a little ice skating on my way into an appointment I had, and I literally felt my car just sliding down the road. It was awful. I don't like that
Ugh.
feeling.
Yeah, no, that's not a good feeling to have. Um, so let me ask about your horses. I had horses growing up, and my mom had horses, and so I grew up around them. I grew up in my mom was a vet tech, so I spent a lot of time in animal hospitals growing up, and I've always just felt this like extra connection with horses, um, especially in the eye. When you look them in the eye, do you find that? I mean, do you use your horses as kind of like a way to kind of focus yourself or center yourself, or is there a certain, are any of your pets like your kind of go-to when you need to center and get ready for a reading? Or is a horse, do you find are you more comfortable with a horse, or what other animals?
Well, I find that horses are extremely I would call, they're very different than connecting with a cat or a dog, and there's something very spiritual about them, and it's hard to describe if you haven't had the opportunity to connect with a cat, a dog, a horse, a parrot. There's something definitely very spiritual about horses. There's something very ancient about them. And it's almost like you have to be so respectful of their space and their sensitivities.
Right.
Where like with a dog, you can just go right in. Hey, how you doing? Come on in, tell me about yourself. Cats, not so much, but horses, there's this whole other respect level that comes into play. I mean, these are some of the most sensitive creatures on the planet. So you have to be very respectful and understand that your energy, when you bring that energy to a session, to a reading, that can literally shut the session down if it's too much for the animal. Your energy really can determine the outcome of what happens in that session. And horses are just amazing. They're incredible. They are powerful in the psychic realm. And I would say that of all the animals that I've communicated with, they have come through with some of the wisest messages. We all think, oh, dolphins, whales, primates. I think it's the horses. The horse wisdom is incredible.
Oh, that's awesome.
They know way more than we give them credit for.
Oh, I'm sure, and I know myself personally. As a visualization that I use to kind of ground myself and get myself ready for a reading is a horse, and he's been there since the beginning of my psychic journey, and he's a tan and white spotted Appaloosa horse, and his eyes are just very cool, and he walks up to me, and I kind of brush him down and look into his eyes, and that really just kind of gets me in the quote unquote zone, I guess.
Right. That's a really neat grounding force there.
Yeah.
I would love to meet him sometime. Sounds wonderful.
Yeah, he's kind of staunchy, but he's graceful at the same time. So, I think he's staunchy to keep me in line. But but it's some of the stuff you were touching on there with your energy, and kind of like how a dog, you jump right in with a dog. It's almost like if you just step back and think about it, how would you handle an animal in life, right? A dog's usually, if they're a friendly dog, you can jump right in,
Right.
and right. And a cat, well, we're here to serve the cats. We're their human servants. So I get that. Is that kind of what you feel like? Is it, kind of when you're approaching a reading for somebody, it's,
Yep.
It's a dog, you're like, hey, I know I can just kind of pal right in there.
You do. You have to really watch your P's and Q's, and you have to really be aware of what you're bringing in. We're walking around, and we have this energy that we're putting out there. And when we sit down to do a reading, we read energy. That's what we read. And
Right.
so you're bringing your energy to the session. You have the client's energy if they're on the phone with you, and then you have the animal's energy, and then whoever else visits during that particular session.
Mhm.
So you're juggling, you're multitasking, you're doing all these things at one time. And many people don't realize how much goes into preparing for a session, preparing yourself, getting focused, getting grounded, and making sure that you're bringing really balanced energy into the session. Because if you bring any of your issues, any of your prejudices or bias, or if you just aren't feeling good that day, or if you just, not with it, that can really tilt the outcome of that session. The animals will feel it, and they'll be put off by it. And it's not like you can ask an animal to repeat themselves. A human might, right? But
Sure.
an animal is going to go, forget it, pal, you missed it the first time, I'm not going to deliver it a second time. So you really have to be mindful and pay attention. And it's a respect thing. and I treat them with so much respect. I love, love, love hearing what they're going to tell me. I think that's, to me, the most fascinating thing. It isn't so much what their human mom or dad wants to know. It's what am I going to find out? What is this animal going to tell me? And that's the part I love, is just being blown away by some of their incredible messages.
Oh, are you there?
There I am.
Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, so go ahead and finish your the last bit of that thought you had there, because you froze up.
How much came across? You just have to be aware of what was I saying? It was brilliant.
You're talking about all the different things you have to juggle.
Oh,
and the amount of work that and the focus that goes into it.
yes, and really just being mindful of yourself, so you're not bringing any of your stuff into that session. You have to just be neutral. You have to be open to everything and leave whatever bad day or whatever's going on in your life. You have to leave that at the door and don't bring it into the session. It is multitasking to the nth degree. You have to really be clear on how you feel, and know that the messages that are coming in are, truly clear and accurate and detailed. And that's the part that I enjoy the most, is getting the really detailed messages. It's the stuff that makes your jaw drop and go, what did you just say?
Is that
Those are the
real?
yeah, those are the best, aren't they?
Yeah, well, it sounds like from readings I do, and it definitely, I don't feel like I go in with like a surgical precision of focus in it, so that sounds I didn't even realize that with what you do. It sounds like you really got to go in, like I said, with a surgical precision of focus and intent, and that's got to take a lot out of you. Do you feel pretty drained after a reading?
Yeah, I started cutting back on how many I would do per day, because it just was wiping me out, because I put so much into it and I'm trying to get so many details in a very short amount of time. And so I would limit to only 3 a day, because I'd have to take a break in between. And that worked out really well for me. Doing any more than 3 a day, and it would just completely wipe me out. And I'm kind of a lazy psychic. This sounds really bad, but um, I don't want to work any harder than I have to. I want to expend the appropriate amount of energy to obtain the appropriate amount of messages, and I don't want to, go on empty. I don't want my tank on empty. So I try to conserve my energy throughout the session. I try to build myself back up throughout the session. I have various different techniques that I use, and I really love crystals, so I've got all my crystals here around in my office. That's one way that I recharge and refuel. But every session is different, and if the client is really excited and they're bringing really positive energy to the session, that just makes it even better. When they sit there and don't say anything, like my buddy Ron used to do, oh my gosh, that man drove me crazy. If he's watching tonight, he's laughing right now. But
yeah, I know he is.
the client, if you're getting a reading from someone, bring good, positive energy and be open to anything. Don't be all narrow-minded about what you want to hear. Just be open to whatever comes through, because it matters.
Exactly. Well, we had a couple of questions come through, and one was from Michael White, but it looks like Sonia Jorgensen may have answered it. But he was asking you, is it true that horses will actually match the heartbeat of their rider?
I believe horses could probably rule the world if we would vote them into office. So I have and they do a better job too than,
That's funny.
what we've had in the past. But that is probably very true. And if you think about it, a horse can feel, well, they're like anywhere from 900 to 1200, 1300 pounds. This is a huge animal, and
Yes.
yet they can feel a mosquito land on their flank. So imagine when we're on their backs, all 100 and whatever pounds we weigh, that there really is this connection that takes place. And anyone who has horses, you know what I'm talking about. There's a connection that happens, and you get in a zone with your horse. You get into this, it's almost meditative.
Sure.
And I would absolutely believe that, Michael. I don't know where he read that, but leave it to him to come up with it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we did have another person that said that they had a dream recently, and a pet, along with a ex-boyfriend who had passed on many years ago, like decades. They both showed up in this dream, and they were very much alive, but she didn't really seem to feel that there was a message there. But when pets show up in a dream, I mean, is that it just showing up? Is that something you can take away from that? Or, I mean, is there symbolism you need to be looking for?
Okay, so one of the most common ways that our departed pets will visit us is in a dream. That's just the easiest way for them to come to us, because usually we are overwhelmed with grief. So we're not going to sense their spirit around us. And so a dream state, we're way more open, and we're more receptive to have a visitation from them. So when they do show up in a dream, the one thing I will differentiate for you, and this is really important to anyone listening, because I've had a lot of clients tell me, but Karen, I had a horrible dream. It was horrible, and my pet was crying or whatever they were doing. That's not a dream visit. That's your subconscious playing out whatever went wrong or whatever you thought happened. That's not a dream visit. A dream visit is truly magical. It will be so real, and you'll feel like you can literally wake up and they're going to be right there with you, and you can hold them and pet them, and everybody's happy and your heart is bursting. That's a dream visit. The other kind, no, that's just your subconscious working through your feelings and your emotions from your loss. So don't get those
Okay.
confused.
Interesting. I feel like I myself have had probably a couple of dream visits then where it seemed so real, like I could reach out and pet him. you know?
That's it then. That's it.
Yeah. We have another question. Boy, they're rolling in, and this one's from Valerie, and she says, "Can I ask Karen, in her experience as a trainer, on average, how long does it take someone to develop a proficiency in becoming an animal communicator?"
Well, let me see. I've been doing this for 24 years now. Hard to believe. It's been
Wow.
long. And I'm still learning, Valerie. I'm still a student. I still learn every session I do. I learn something new from it. I take something away that I didn't know or that I hadn't maybe thought of before. But I will say that there's definitely a learning curve. In the very beginning, we have to put all of our preconceived ideas of, is this real? Does this work? We have to get past all that. So there is a learning curve in the beginning, but once you get like your first message, or once you start getting information from animals, you just get like, yes, 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 yes. And then it goes really fast from there. So if you are really crazy about it, like I was and practiced all the time, you can get really good really fast. But that's what it takes. It takes practice, because every animal is different. You're not going to get the same answers. You can't use the same technique every time. It's not going to work every time. Like cats will make a fool out of me every time. I love them, As I said,
Yes.
I have more than 3, but let me tell you, if someone's going to make a fool out of me, it's going to be a cat. They're just so they're too darn smart. They're amazingly witty and
Yes.
charming, and they're the only animals I've come across so far that lie.
Really
Mhm.
interesting. Well, like I said before, we're here to serve them. Uh,
Exactly.
that's just how it goes.
But let me answer
Um,
her question realistically. So, in my experience, I teach a 12-week course. It's a mastery program, and you have to already be actively communicating with animals. So it's for intermediate to advanced,
okay.
and that's like a supercharged turbo booster 12-week course. You can take a basic class like my online course, which is very much covering all the basics of how to connect, how to send a message, how to receive a message, and just in a matter of, I would say, 3 or 4 weeks, you can probably get the basics down, and then it's all up to you. The rest is really depending on how often you practice.
That's awesome. Like anything, you have to put the time and the focus into it. Um, well, we have another question. This one's from Carrie, but I want to quickly ask you before we get to that question. When you say, you can teach, the basics of how to send a message or how to receive a message, for you, how does it come in? Is it like empath? Is it intuitive? Do you hear or do you see images, or, what's kind of the clair that works for you?
Well, I started out basically as a clairvoyant where I would just see something. I'd get a flash, an image.
Okay.
And I wanted to be able to hear the animals talking to me. That was my goal. I wanted to hear that message. And so I started to ask them to send me messages so I could hear them. So they'd send me a flash of something, and then I'd say, "Okay, that's really cool. Thank you for that. But now can you tell me that? Can you say that?" And that took a while. That took a lot longer. Now I would say that I'm mainly clairaudient, so I mainly hear everything that they're saying. But then, Pete, it's a total mixed bag. Each animal is different. Some are better at sending images, some are better at sending sounds and words and sentences, and others
Hmm.
are just kind of a combination of everything. So you have to really be proficient in all of the clairs. You have to really be paying attention because, like I said, they won't repeat. They'll share a message and then they'll go on to the next thing. And if you miss it, you miss it. It's like, boom, it's gone.
Wow. Well, it sounds kind of like humans almost, I guess, with how things come in, because
Yes,
different people are better at speaking to you or showing you photos or whatever. So,
exactly.
yeah.
But
So,
like, we use symbols like thumbs up, thumbs down, green, red light, green light. Green is yes, and a red is no. And I'll use symbols with them too. I have a whole different lineup of symbols that come into play. And some animals are just, more shy, more quiet, more reserved, and
mhm.
others are more forthcoming, just like they were in life.
Yeah, isn't that something now you take your personality with you,
You
and the
do.
and the type of person you are, and that's so cool, and it's kind of clicking in my head a little bit more of, because I've always been curious about exactly what you do and how it works and stuff, but it really sounds a lot like humans, but you're getting that animal energy, and that's awesome.
Yep, it's just it gets a little trickier because most animals don't speak English. So, that's where the tricky part comes in.
Okay.
And that's how you can really sharpen your abilities is by understanding the message, because they might just show you something and then you have to
Hmm.
figure out what that is, and it might
Yeah.
not be exactly what they're showing you. Like, for instance, they might show you a red ball. They don't even have a red ball. Maybe they don't even care about toys, but they want they want you to say something red, for instance. So it might just turn out that their mom or dad who's on the phone with me that I can't see because they're on the phone with me is wearing red that day. So the animal will show me something just to get me to
Sure.
say it. And then I have to tell my client, hey, I'm seeing a red ball or something red, something round. What does this mean to you? So it's a lot like playing charades. And I know this is similar to with departed humans because they do the same thing sometimes.
Yes.
They'll flash images at us. We don't know what the heck they're showing us. And it's like, okay, let me just tell you what I'm seeing because I don't understand this. So it's very similar to that.
Interesting. Yeah, I've kind of noticed with older spirits, or the longer the time someone passed away, the less words they use and the more imagery and emotion that, they kind of will send emotions that I then get to decipher.
Yes.
Which is
And
not always fun.
have you noticed too that the further back they are, generationally speaking, the further back they stand away from you?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I've had some come fairly close, but I would agree with that. I didn't really, I guess, put a lot of notice into that, but now that I think about it, yeah, I would agree with that.
So when you're trying to figure out, okay, who are you? Are you on the mom's side? Are you on the dad's side? How far back are you? Yeah, if they're standing way back there, you know that they're going back more in the generations in the lineage than if they're standing way up close. And I found that there is a generational common theme generationally where a certain generation just kind of stands back and does this.
Yes.
And they don't
Yes.
say anything.
I
They
totally
just
agree with
stand
that.
there. It's like, are you with me? And they're just standing there looking at you like, I'm just observing. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say anything.
Yeah, yeah, they don't say anything, or it looks like they're standing out of the light of a street light in a
Yeah.
dark alley. You can't quite see them.
I ask them to come step into the light. I'll have a spotlight there, a virtual spotlight, and I'll say, "Can you come step into the light?" And they're not having it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's get to the question from Carrie, and this question for Karen. She ask, how do I get past the bias I have towards small dogs when I do readings for small dogs? No matter how hard I try, I feel differently about small dogs than large or even medium-sized breeds. Is there something I can do to get past this bias and connect with them with as much respect as with larger dogs?
That's a really good question. And I would think that one of the things to keep in mind is that because I have three little dogs, they're right here in the room with me, they're being really good right now. But think about this, Carrie. Little dogs have the biggest egos usually, right? They think they're Rottweilers. These three little Chihuahua things I have here, they think they could tackle an elephant. So maybe in your mind's eye, you could visualize these little dogs as having this super persona and being bigger than life itself. Try that because it is it's those little dogs. They're the toughest ones. They are tougher. I will tell you, little dogs are tougher than the big dogs. I don't know why. It just is. It's just one of those weird little things, but they can be really challenging to connect with. So that might be what the issue is. It may not be just the size issue. It's just that little dogs are, for me anyway, they're more of a challenge to connect with. I haven't cracked that nut yet. I haven't figured out why, but there's probably many reasons why. But try that, Carrie. Good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. And that came through the station chat. So if you're out there and you want to ask questions, WLTKDB.com, jump on the station chat. And with the little dogs here, you're talking about bigger than life, and it sounds to me like almost it's you got to get around their personality and kind of get to their core, love they had for their human, kind of tap in, get around their personality. You almost have to kind of sift through that, it sounds like.
God, what just downloaded in my head as you were saying that, Pete? I just got this, like, it's It may also be because their humanizes them so much that they almost aren't even dog-like compared to big dogs. You know what I mean? You know
Yeah.
how we tend to humanize little dogs more so than big dogs? So that's what just came into me right there. Again, I'm sharing that with you live as it came in.
Yeah. No, I think that makes some sense, and maybe it's almost because they're humanized so much that um maybe it almost takes a different respect to
Vibration.
get to them.
Yes, and I'm going to use the word vibration again because certain animals have a higher frequency and are more difficult to connect with. So maybe that's what it is. The more humanized that dog is, the more difficult it'll be to connect with them. I'm totally theorizing right now.
Sure.
But it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, interesting, and it's going to give me something to think about too. I mean, I kind of feel like I was almost going to start getting something too about what that is. So if that comes through, I'll let you know. But
Okay.
so we got about 5 minutes to our top of hour break, and we've got another question. This one's from the Facebook Live, and then we've got after the break, we got another question from Valerie, which is a great one. We'll tackle that. But somebody in the Facebook live stream, and it scrolled up past now. I can't see
Oh yeah.
who asked it, but it was the question was, and I think it's kind of a big one. Will we be reunited with our pets after they've departed? Do we get reunited?
Of course. That was a purposeful pause.
I love it.
Yes, of course. They're going to be the first ones. They're waiting for us. They're with us all the time. They're around us all the time. They get so excited when we acknowledge their presence, when we hear them, when we talk about them, when we say their names. And they get really frustrated with us when we discount their signs and their messages. So, yes, they will be waiting for us.
I'm looking forward to that because I've got some pets that meant the world to me. So I can't wait.
Me too.
So is that so the Rainbow Bridge poem?
Okay, yeah, the Rainbow Bridge.
Now, yeah. So I mean, when one of my cats had passed away, I read that poem, and it kind of floored me, and meant a lot to me. And so I think of that often, or when I see somebody, on Facebook or whatever that's lost a pet, I think about that. It's all is that kind of how it is, maybe you think, or is there
Close.
credence to that?
It's pretty close. What I would say the difference is in the Rainbow Bridge poem, for those who don't know it or story or whatever, it's that the animals are separate from the humans and that they're in this beautiful meadow or field or something on the other side of this bridge waiting for us. In reality, in my experience, there's no separation of animals to humans. The animals can be with the humans can be with the animals, everybody can be with anybody. There's no separation there as there is in the Rainbow Bridge story. And we don't have to actually go to that bridge. I mean, they're with us around all the time. They're around us all the time. They're not in some faraway place. They're not up in the clouds. They're not in a meadow or a field somewhere. They're with us all the time. So it's just a matter of leaving one dimension and entering into the spiritual realm. So it's very similar to that, meaning there's going to be a huge reunion. Yes, that part is very, very similar.
Yeah. And that's the part I think I latch on to more is the reunion part of it. And I totally agree with you in total. I loved your pause, and of course, because it's awesome. Well, they're around. I've in my readings that I've done over the years, and I'm a rookie at all this. I've only been doing it for 7 years. And so I feel like I'm a rookie. And occasionally a pet will show up during a reading. and they've never, there's, as far as I can tell, of course I could have missed it, that they have given me a message. But I have seen, someone's dog that that they had, someone's grandma, and it was their dog that was with them, or rarely a cat. I think I only had one cat, but a few dogs have popped up in readings before, and so I would agree more with what you're saying, that they're always with us. They're kind of not off in this far, far away place or whatever.
Right.
But it makes me happy to know that we'll be reunited, and
Me too.
it gives you something to look forward to, I guess.
Big party.
Yeah, that's right. Well, hey, we're at the top of the hour. We're gonna pay the bills here and take a little station break. When we come back, we're gonna come back with another question from Valerie for my guest Karen Anderson. We're on the Paranormal Pete Show on Let's Talk Radio, WLTKDB.com. We'll see you on the flip side of the break.
Would-be congressman is dead from the coronavirus. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Only days from being sworn in, Louisiana Congressman-elect Luke Letlow has died from the coronavirus at a hospital in Shreveport, Louisiana. Letlow had been the chief of staff to retiring Congressman Ralph Abraham and won the election to the seat just 24 days ago. He leaves a wife and 2 young children. Luke Letlow was 41. President-elect Joe Biden with a warning today about the outbreak.
Things are going to get worse before they get better.
He's called for 100 million vaccinations in his first 100 days. Says he'll invoke the Defense Production Act if necessary to get the doses required for that. A new strain of the coronavirus confirmed in the United States. A patient in Colorado who has not traveled overseas, now confirmed with the so-called UK variant, said to be more easily transmitted. Procedural moves in the Senate, but no votes today on increasing relief payments.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has introduced a bill increasing stimulus checks from $600 to $2,000, something President Trump has demanded in Democratic leaders' support. But the measure from the Republican leader would also repeal a liability shield for social media companies and establish a 2020 Election Integrity Commission, also requested by the president. Those additions are considered poison pills by top Democrats. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says if Republicans load up stimulus checks with unrelated partisan provisions, it will do nothing to help struggling families.
Fox's Jared Halper in the Senate could vote tomorrow on the effort to override the president's veto of the defense spending authorization. The Trump campaign appealing another election lawsuit to the U.S. Supreme Court, asking justices to throw out more than 220,000 ballots in the Milwaukee and Madison areas, and declaring the Wisconsin election failed, giving the selection of the state's electoral college delegates to state lawmakers. America is listening to Fox News.
Does your business have trouble managing inventory, projects, or even getting paid on time? Don't let spreadsheets and QuickBooks hold you back. If you want to get your business to a better place, take action now and make the move to NetSuite. Stop paying for multiple systems that don't give you the information you need when you need it. Ditch the spreadsheets and all the old software you've outgrown. Now is the time to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. NetSuite gives you visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more. Everything you need, all in one place, instantaneously. Whether you're doing $1 million or hundreds of millions in revenue, save time and money with NetSuite.
Join the over 22,000 companies using NetSuite right now. Let NetSuite show you how they'll benefit your business with a free product tour at netsuite.com/Fox. Schedule your free product tour right now at netsuite.com/Fox.
There's been one benefit from the coronavirus pandemic. The number of public mass shootings this year is the lowest in a decade. According to Northeastern University, there were only 2 such events this year, both of them before the coronavirus lockdowns took effect. During the vice presidential debate, Senator Kamala Harris said she wouldn't trust the coronavirus vaccine on President Trump's say-so. Today, the vice president-elect received the Moderna vaccine, saying,
I trust the scientists, and it is the scientists who created and approved this vaccine.
She urged all Americans to get vaccinated. Federal prosecutors have decided against civil rights charges against two Cleveland police officers involved in the shooting of 12-year-old Tamir Rice.
The case is now closed in that deadly Tamir Rice shooting. The 12-year-old boy was playing with a pellet gun when officers Timothy Lohman and Frank Garmbach were sent to the scene in Cleveland. Rice was shot by Lohman shortly after their arrival. Lohman has since been fired, but not as a result of that shooting. The Justice Department, in its decision, said they did not condone the officers' actions, but the incident did not rise to a civil rights prosecution. An attorney for Tamir Rice's family says the process was tainted and is calling for documents that support the DOJ's decision to drop the investigation. Kunal Scott, Fox News.
The Justice Department says they are working with authorities in Pakistan to make sure the man convicted of beheading New York Times reporter Danny Pearl is not released from prison, as Pakistani courts have ordered, after throwing out his murder conviction and reducing the charges to kidnapping. The spokesman says the U.S. is prepared to take custody of Omar Sheikh to stand trial in the United States for Pearl's murder in 2002. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Others say it. We prove it.
We are controlling transmission.
WLTK DB. Let's talk. Alternative Talk Radio. WLTKDB.com.
Well, they say that you're a fool. You believe in magic.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We're on the other side in the second hour now of the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Peter Orbea, and I've got very special guest Karen Anderson with me tonight. Welcome back, Karen.
Thanks for having me. This is so cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I got to tell you, you're super hard to talk to. Jeez.
I know, I'm so boring, huh?
Yeah. We've had a lot of great questions coming in, and want to thank all the listeners out there on the station chat for submitting questions and on the Facebook feed as well. So I'm trying to keep up with both here. And so we had a question from Valerie, and we may have kind of touched on this, but let's ask anyways. So she says, when you learn animal communication, is it just the same connecting and talking to your own dogs across the veil as other people's dogs, or is there a difference? Like, I mean, it sounds like maybe you might be more comfortable trying to communicate with your own animals than maybe someone else. I mean, is there a difference, or is it just, that vibration you've mentioned?
Well, it's actually for most people more difficult to get messages from their own pets, which is the main reason that most of us get into this, is because we love our pets. We want to communicate with them. And then we find that there's this huge mental block, but we can't get one little message from our dog or cat or horse or whatever. And the reason is because our brains will autofill.
Sure.
And it's just like autocorrect. We know everything there is to know about our pets, or almost everything. So if you're when you're learning animal communication, you have to ask something you don't know the answer to, or you don't think you know the answer to. And then that can help you learn how to tune into your pets more.
Okay.
If you work with someone like me as your coach, I will teach you to actually start practicing on don't know first, then build up your confidence. That's how you learn. That's how you realize and figure out how you receive messages.
Yeah,
with other people's pets.
It makes, yeah, exactly. It makes a lot of sense too. Through my experience as a medium doing readings, it's so hard to read the people so well,
It is.
You do autofill. Yeah, because you're like,
and you're trying not to, you're like, I'm trying not to think that. You're trying to block that stuff out, but you can't help it because you're human, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Truly, when you're learning animal communication, you start off with the basics. What's your favorite treat? What's your favorite toy? Where do you sleep at night? Who's your best friend? you can hear somebody whining in the background here, so I may need to go let them OUT.
That's okay.
I can't say it because then they'll all start screaming.
Oh, boy.
But you really have to realize that there is a learning curve, there is a confidence level you have to reach, and that comes with practicing with pets you do not know. That's the only way you can build your confidence. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, can I go let them?
No,
Okay.
that's okay. I've got a story I can share while you do that.
They're not gonna let up.
Yeah, no worries. So, Karen, as a animal communicator, she knows when her dogs need to do their thing, so I let her do that. But I wanted to share another story of a animal spirit, and it's here another one from here in Port Campbell. And I had talked about the house that I had lived in, and the house next to that has a storied past of a cat spirit that roams around in this place. And this house is called the Jackson House, and it was built in 1871. And the U.S. Postmaster here in Port Campbell, that's who that guy was, D.B. Jackson, and his son as well, Leslie Jackson, was the postmaster through 9 U.S. presidents out here. So really long time. It's a really neat house. It's cut up really weird. The rooms are really strange in there. And there's a lot of activity that I've experienced and many others have experienced in that house, which we'll save some of that for another show. But one of the main stories out of that place, I should say probably the most commonly reported activity in there, is of a cat. And it used to be a retail shop, and now it's more of a private business, more of an office type business. So there's not customers going in and out of there like there used to be. And so there's this, people would start talking about seeing a cat. And Sonia says, yes, the postmaster house. Yep, it's the brown one on the main street here in Port Gamble. And so one of the former shop owners decided to start having people like write down the description of the cat, or like kids would often see it. So she would have them color, use crayons and color. And the interesting thing is everyone's describing the same type of cat, like a reddish or ginger colored, like calico pattern of this cat. And I unfortunately have never been able to come across the cat. But what happens is people are in there and something will brush by their leg and they'll say, oh, what's your cat's name? And she'll say, and then the shop owner would say, well, I'm sorry, we don't have a cat. And my favorite story of this cat was I was touring a travel writer around Port Gamble, and not for the paranormal, but just, for tourism type stuff. And he asks me, I hear this town's haunted. What can you tell me? And I said, well, how many hours do you have? And we kind of joked a little bit. And we were right outside of this house. And I said, well, we got to go in and check this place out. And it was a retail and a little restaurant at the time. And the shop owner had all these little dining rooms set up in the various little rooms on the first floor. And so we go in there, and he wanted to check out the whole place. So he went towards the back, the rooms in the back, and it was him or it was myself and his wife, and the shop owner stayed at the front of the shop, just kind of chit chatting while he went back there. He wasn't back there 10 seconds, and we hear, hey, what the heck? And he comes bombing up towards the front of the shop, and the shop owner's like, oh, you okay? And he goes, your cat walked up to me like it wanted me to pet it, and I put my hand down and it disappeared. What the heck? And she says, oh, you found our ghost kitty. And boy, he turned a shade of white, that whiter than I've ever seen. But so there's a couple of animal stories, and I know Neil McNeil has one. I think it has a white dog that they witnessed running by the old stables here in Port Gamble. So there's some interesting experiences, and hopefully someday I'll get to meet that cat. But we're welcoming Karen back. Welcome back. Are the kiddos doing okay?
It's fine. Sorry about that.
No, that's all good.
I have a great Port Gamble story for you.
Okay.
So we were, this was a couple years back, and it was Ron and Seth and Jill and me, of course, and I'm trying to remember who else was there, but we were around the houses, you know, the rental houses back there.
Mm-hmm.
And Ron was doing a blessing of the land.
Okay.
It was so cold and drizzly and chilly out there, and you're right on the water. It was dark out. It was after the show, and Seth and I both saw a white wolf run behind Ron Solar and disappear right into him.
Oh.
Yes, it was so cool, really cool.
That brings a new meaning to hair-raising experience, I guess. Jeez.
Yep.
So it was white though, because that's what I think Neil's story that he's talked about before had to do with a white, it looked like a white dog. So I don't know. I'll have to ask him if he thought it was more like a wolf or just a domestic type dog. So interesting. That's cool. So you guys were staying at the guest houses.
Yes,
sounds
the guest
like down
house.
there.
Yes.
Yeah. And I had somebody comment on the Facebook stream about the Jackson house and the cat, that they saw the cat one day in the back room, in one of the back rooms, and that was Mary. Thanks for the comment, Mary.
That's so cool.
So you're lucky. I haven't seen it. And so we did have a couple more questions, and I'll see. Sonia, can you re-ask yours? It's too far down. I can't see it now. But another question was from Michael White, and the question is, though it might be harder to understand, do reptiles or fish pets ever come through? Have you ever done readings for a reptile or a fish pet?
Oh yeah. In fact, one of the coolest messages I ever got was from a snake. I was actually at the gym and I was on the elliptical machine. So you have to imagine, you know, I'm doing this, and this guy comes up to me at the elliptical machine next to me, and he's got a snake wrapped around his arm, right? Not exactly what you see at the gym all the time. Well, he had heard through the rumor mill that I could communicate with animals. So he thought that this was a great time to ask me what was going on with his snake. Well, no, this is not a great time to ask. So we went outside and I had a little chat with this snake, and she wasn't eating and she wasn't doing very well. And so he wanted to find out what was going on. And so she told me there were a couple of things that were going on with the level of heat was part of the problem. But she said the most amazing thing to me. I love snakes. I don't have a problem with it. As long as they're not poisonous in my yard, I love snakes. This, some kind of boa, rosy boa or something like that, said to me something along the lines, this was a long time ago, Michael, so bear with me here. It was something like, what is this thing you humans call fear?
Oh.
I don't understand this thing you call fear.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was kind of shocked by that. I wasn't expecting that. And I found myself trying to explain human psychology to a snake. It was one of those crazy moments, like caught me totally off guard. It was a very honest question, I thought, because she thought she was amazing and beautiful, and she couldn't understand why so many humans were afraid of her.
Wow. Talk about another level of thinking and
right?
You know, and old school wisdom there.
Right. I know.
That's really, I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have just been like, lost for words.
Yep. I definitely had to think about that one. It's like, oh my gosh, what do I say? And then I think I stammered and stumbled around. And I said something like, well, most humans fear what they don't understand. But once they understand you, they won't fear you at the same level, because I
Yeah.
had no fear. So she could feel that, she could sense that. So she felt safe in sharing that message with me. And that's what it is. I feel so honored that they will share their message with me. And that's what I want to relay to every single animal. It's all about the dignity and respect that they deserve, that they're all special. Somebody loves them, somebody cares about them, they're somebody's best friend. And I want to relay that to them so that they know that they're special. They can trust me to deliver their message, and I'm not going to botch it. I'm going to deliver it as clearly and accurately as I can. I mean, I don't get me wrong, I mess up every once in a while, but my
You're human.
intentions are good.
Yeah, that goes back to what you were saying kind of right off the bat, was, you know, having that, setting the intention. And you seem to have found an approach, and your intention, you know, being true through you, of giving that respect and the dignity to them, because I think in regular life maybe that's not always there. You know, we know it's not there. And so it kind of speaks to, you know, going back to setting your intention. And that's just an important point anyways, with anything paranormal research or in regular life, is setting that focus and that intention. So that's fascinating.
Well, and then, we were talking about how what all happens in a reading. And, this may be a shock to some people who are listening. If you get it, if you're somebody who gets a lot of readings, then this won't be any big news to you. But if you haven't had a reading, or if you haven't had a pet reading, I spend at least a half an hour with that animal alone before I get the client on the phone. So half an hour or so before a session would start, I would just sit quietly with that animal's photo. I use their photo to connect. That's like having that pet's cell phone number. I just dial them up. Plus, I like looking at them because they're so cute. But that really helps me feel and sense their energy just by gazing at their photo. Now, photo isn't necessary, but like I said earlier, I'm a very lazy psychic and I don't want to work any harder than I have to. So I can still connect with the pet if there is no photo, but I have to work a little harder. So
Sure. Well, I mean, you found a way that works better for you, so I wouldn't consider it lazy. You're just, you know, if you can have the photo, it's more efficient, right? It doesn't
more
take as
efficient. There it is.
Yeah,
Yes,
it,
I'm
it
more
doesn't
efficient
does
because
it.
of
Yes,
that.
think of it that way, because you know, if it's easier for you, you don't have to be putting out so much,
Exactly. We
and
have
and
to
you
conserve our energy, right?
exactly.
So the client will get on the phone when their appointment time rolls around. I already know what that animal's all about. I already have a sense for their mood, their attitude, what's going on with them, because I've already spent the last 30 minutes just checking in with them before the client ever called in. I already know what I'm walking into. So I'm they still surprise me, but at least I have a really good idea of what's going on. And then this is the part that I was leading up to, that you might not know this if you haven't had a pet session, especially one for me. I don't let the client ask any questions. They have to wait until the very end,
Okay.
because I want that animal. I think it's the most loving and kind and respectful thing to do, to let that animal share whatever they want to share. This is
Right.
their time to talk. So let's let that animal talk. They'll probably answer about 80% of what that person wanted to know. And then I leave a little bit of time at the end for the person to ask a question if there was something else that came up. But they're usually so blown away at that point by what the animal told them that their other questions didn't even matter. So a really good animal communicator will let that animal talk, because it's more important to hear what's on their minds than sometimes the silly little things that we want to know.
Yeah, and I've never had a session with an animal communicator. At some point, I'd love to. But tell everyone out there listening, how can they get a hold of you to get a session with you?
Well, I'm actually not conducting sessions right now.
Oh,
Yes, because I have a couple of other things going on. First of all, I'm writing my next book, which is
you answered one of my questions.
yes, which is going
Awesome.
to be all about pet loss in the afterlife, very much in line with The Amazing Afterlife of Animals, which was my last book. And I'm really focusing on the coaching aspect of animal communication. I want to show more people how easy this is to do. And I want there to be more animal communicators in the world. I want more people to understand the steps are simple, it's basic, it's easy, there's no magic to it. The magic happens within the session. The magic happens once you get all of those basic steps down. That's where the magic happens, and that's your unique style. And that's what I love helping people focus in on and sharpen their abilities with. So I'm not conducting sessions right now, but they can still get my app. I have a mobile app that has all kinds of animal communication hints and tips and suggestions and resources. And that's all on my website. If you go to KarenAnderson.net, and you can opt in as a VIP and get email updates, or you can also download my app and get all of that right at your fingertips. I've got a Facebook practice group for anyone who wants to learn. It's called Animal Communication Planet, and I do free training in there. So I got all kinds of stuff going on.
That's awesome. Well, it's good that you can kind of, keep busy with, with everything else that's going on. Now, when's your next? You have a workshop coming up, right?
I do. On January 12th, I'm teaching an afterlife master class, and that you do have to register for that. That's through Open Center. And again, you can either go to my Facebook page, you can go to my Animal Communication Planet practice group, or my website, KarenAnderson.net, to get all the information. And it's in the app too, under the events category. You can get all the upcoming cool stuff that's happening.
That's awesome. And I just posted a link to your website on the Facebook live stream there, so
Thank
people
you.
can go there and check it out. Well, I'm excited for your new book. That's cool. Your last one, you got a bestseller, and you've got, I don't know how many awards for that one. So congratulations again
Thank
on
you.
that. And when can we expect the new book to be coming out?
Oh my gosh, that's the $1,000,000 question. Soon, I hope. I really want to get this released, maybe by June.
Awesome.
I'd like to have it released by June. And it's going to be full of stories, just like The Amazing Afterlife of Animals. This one's going to focus more in depth. And I'm going to go into each one of the categories more: reincarnation and what really happens when our pets die, and what do they experience, and euthanasia and cremation and burial. What do pets understand all that stuff? How do they feel about it? And then also the whole healing aspect from our perspective, because I think, Pete, that's the one common thing that we all have when we lose a pet, is that grief, that pain. How do we handle that? How do we get through those tough times?
Yeah.
And we all grieve differently. So what works for you isn't going to work for me, but how can you navigate through a loss, especially if things didn't end the way that you had hoped?
Right.
And how do pets perceive that? There's so many things that, I don't know about you or those who are listening, but I carried grief around with me for 20 years over something that happened that I blamed myself for, only to find out in my first book I write about it that that's not even on our radar. They don't even think in the same way that we think. And here I carried this guilt around for 2 decades for no reason, when all that time I could have been putting positive energy and loving thoughts. And instead I was beating myself up as to what a horrible person I was. And I wasn't even a horrible person. So
Yeah, and I've heard you kind of speak about that a little bit at like the Oregon Ghost Conference, or here at the Port Gamble Ghost Conference. And so, can you talk a little bit about that very subject of grief? Because what you've talked about before, and I thought was just it was a really cool thought, and it kind of made me look at the pets I've lost. Of they don't want you to necessarily remember them in the last days, right? They want you to think of them in the happy, the love and the happy times, not the sad times. You know what I mean? Can you talk a little bit about that?
absolutely. And let's think about this for a minute. Let's say you've been with your pet for a long time, 10 years or more. And even if you haven't, it doesn't matter. Length of time doesn't matter to a pet. The quality of time matters to a pet, because they don't measure a good life by how many years they're here. They measure a good life by how much fun they had and how good you are to them. That's how they measure a good life. So imagine you've lost that pet and you had all these adventures. You spent every day together. You went on walks or rides or whatever, or they slept in your bed with you or whatever. This is your buddy, your pal. Go everywhere with them. Now imagine that once that pet leaves their body and goes into spiritual world, their life basically doesn't change very much. They get to do everything that they want. They get to do more with you. They get to go more places with you. They can go to the store with you. They can go to work with you. They can go to the beach with you. They can go to the doctor's office with you. They get more freedom when they leave their body. But all you do is focus in on those last final moments. So your thoughts about them, your whole relationship with them now becomes encapsulated in this little bubble of time. And it's like everything that you guys did together that was so fun and wonderful gets forgotten because you're focusing in on those final moments. Wouldn't you be discouraged if you were that pet going, hey, wait a second. What about all those years we had? What about all those adventures we went on? What about all those nights together, those days together, all the fun we had? You're going to focus and base my whole entire worth on that one little blip in time. They don't want us to do that. And it actually discredits and dishonors them when we do that. And I'm guilty. I'm so guilty. I speak from experience here. I've done it myself. I have beat myself up. I blame myself. I focus on how it ended. It ended wrong. This isn't, the way I wanted it to go. And I'm a bad mother. I didn't do this right or do that right. They don't see it that way. They see it as, hey, we had this great life. Let's put all of our energy and attention on all the wonderful times that we had and the joy that we shared together. Plus, you're no fun to hang out with, Pete, if you're grieving all the time.
Right.
Who wants to hang out with someone who's down in the dumps and beating themselves up all the time? That's no fun. It's no fun for your pet either, because why? They feed off of your energy. So if you are this outgoing, happy, smiley, loving life person, guess what? Your departed pets are going to want to be around you more than if you are this depressed, self up, I hate myself person. They're not going to want to hang out with you as much. They're still going to love you. You're not going to harm them. You're not going to stop them from their spiritual journey, but they're not going to want to hang out with you because that's just not fun. So think about it. It makes sense, right?
Yeah, it does. And when I heard you speak about that at gosh, I can't remember if I think it was the Port Gamble one.
I don't know. They all run together in my head too.
Yeah. But when I heard you speak about that, I mean, you know, on a personal level, you know, kind of made me look back on my last dog, and he passed away suddenly. He was 3 years old, and he just kind of passed away, and he passed away in my arms. And it was like within minutes of me noticing something was not right, and then he was gone. And I I had a really hard time with that one. And you know, but once I kind of stepped back, it was like, okay, no, we did have some cool times because he was a really cool dog. His name was McGruff, the crime fighting dog.
The
Um,
crime dog.
he kind of looked like McGruff. But
Cool.
yeah, and so that really helped me. So I'm hoping anybody listening out there, maybe if you've recently lost a pet, you know, try, and like Karen says, you know, put out that positive energy, and because they're with you. And I like the idea that they get to go more places with you than they did when they were here living, because you couldn't always take them everywhere, but now they get to go with you. It's such a
They get to
neat
go.
yeah, neat concept. And I think it's right on. It feels right. It just
Yep.
feels
And
right.
I heard it so many times. If you think of how many sessions I've done over the last 24 years, it's somewhere up around 22,000 sessions, documented sessions that I've done.
Holy
I know.
smokes.
I know. And you see patterns. You begin to see patterns. And the pattern that I was seeing is that, first of all, the animals don't judge us. That's really powerful. So I'm going to say it again. Our pets do not judge us by how their life ended. Even if a horrible accident happened, and let's say you accidentally killed your own pet, they don't see it that way. It's not of their memory. It's not the way that they would relay it to me. They might show me that some kind of impact happened or whatever, but they don't come through in 22,000 sessions, Pete. Not a single animal has ever said, my mom or dad killed me and I hold them responsible. No, never. It has never happened. So take that information and just know that, you know, the animals see it completely from their perspective. Their body failed them somehow, some way. They know you love them with your whole heart and that you would do anything to protect them and save them, because that's what you do the whole time they're with you.
Yeah.
You're doing everything you can to make these guys happy and extend their lives, right? I'm a life extender. I've extended lives over the years and they know this. So they love you and they want you to continue to live your life, to continue to get other pets. When you love on another pet, they benefit from that love. They get the love coming from your heart. If you love on another person, if you love your job, if you love life, if you love yourself, they benefit. So the moral of this story is just be happy, live your life to the fullest. That's how you can help your pets on the other side, because they feed off of your fuel, they feed off of your energy.
Right. It's keeping that positive energy out there. And you touched on, um, you know, with a new loving on a new pet. And you know, when I got Dino, my current buddy, um, you know, it was pretty soon after McGruff had passed. And you know, I feel like there's some guilt. You feel, you know, a little bit of guilt of maybe you're dishonoring your, you know, your last pet, but it makes sense, you know, by putting out that positive energy, and what you put into your newfound buddy, that they get to soak that. I mean, is that right? They kind of get to soak up
Yes,
that too.
they do. They will even sometimes pop in. They'll pop into your new buddy and experience that love, and then they pop back out again. And you know, you might see your new pet doing something that the old pet did, even if you just see it one time. Well, that's usually a soul sharing moment where they will pop into that body just to experience that again, and then poof, they're out. again, but you know, we humanize our pets, and in that humanization, we also place our perspectives. And animals just do not see death and dying and the living process the same way humans do. It's a completely different perspective, and it's something that they taught me. I had no idea about this. They taught me to live in the moment. They don't worry about yesterday. They don't worry about 2 weeks from now. They don't, you know, they have PTSD, they have traumas, but with the right person, they can get through that and stay in the moment and live in the moment. And usually, this is going to hurt some people who are listening. Usually, pets have PTSD because you're perpetuating whatever that was. The human is usually the reason, the core reason that that pet can't move past something. You're either obsessing about it. If you obsess about something that your pet has been through, if they've been abused or whatever, or in a fight or got hit and injured or whatever, if you're holding them there, that's on you.
Right.
Help your pet move past that.
That makes sense. It's so I've got kind of we have another question through the Facebook from Michael, but I wanted to ask real quick. You mentioned a soul sharing moment, you know, that from a departed pet to maybe your new pet. Have you ever come across, I hope this doesn't sound weird, have you ever come across a person that is now an animal?
This doesn't sound weird to me. This is like right up my alley. So I have seen and heard it all. Dogs coming back as dogs, cats coming back as cats, horses, and then every other combination, including people, back and forth. I've seen it all. I've heard it all. It is rare, I will tell you, to have a human come back as an animal or vice versa. That is rare.
Okay.
Usually, if they left as a dog, they're going to come back as a dog. However, I do believe there are no rule books in the reincarnation field. I don't think there's someone up there with a checklist going, well, let's see, reincarnation. You were a dog, so you have to come back as a dog. No, I think that if it's in the highest and best for that soul's growth on a spiritual level, I think anything is possible. It just doesn't happen as frequently.
Yeah.
But I have lots of people who contacted me and said, I think my cat is my grandmother reincarnated. I get all kinds of crazy stuff like that.
Yeah.
And who's to say this can't happen? I mean, certainly I'm not going to put my name on that. I think anything can happen. Anything is possible. And I have a really cool reincarnation story if I can sneak it in real quick.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so this is in there's more stories in The Amazing Afterlife of Animals, but about reincarnation, but this is one of my all-time favorite stories, so I had to write about it because it just blew me away. So a client contacted me because his dog passed away suddenly and unexpectedly at 5 years old, and the dog's name was Captain. And this is the first time that his dad, Frank, had had an animal communication session. So he didn't quite know what to expect. And he was, you know, checking it out for the first time. And he was this crazy woman, Karen Anderson, who says she can talk to animals. Wasn't sure about the whole thing, but that's okay. So we had the session. One of the questions he asked was, is Captain planning to come back? Is he planning to reincarnate? And Captain said yes. And he started giving me details about how his dad would find him and how he would know that this was the right dog that he found. Well, one of the things that he said, among others, were there was someone with a T name that would be involved. There was a Wednesday that was important. And there was also the letter C that was really important, and something really big. I couldn't quite tell what that was, but something really big. So long story short, several months go by. I get an email from Frank, and he says to me, you're not going to believe this. He says, I'm sending you pictures. You're not going to believe this. So I waited, and sure enough, across my email, he sent me what happened. He said, a woman by the name of Tony, the T, had the puppies. He went to see the puppies on a Wednesday, and the puppy that he adopted had a giant letter C on its forehead. And he sent me the picture, and it's in my book. You can see it in my book. There is a letter C on this puppy's head, I swear. I don't know how to Photoshop. I wouldn't even begin to be able to, and plus Frank's my buddy and my friend, and
Yeah.
he'll be listening tonight. But he can attest this is all true. Blew me away. And the thing that was really big that we couldn't understand, that dog who he later named Cash for the big C,
Yeah.
grew to be like 140 pounds or something. He was gigantic.
There's the
So
big part.
there was the big part, but it had a letter C on its head.
Yeah, that's insane.
Crazy. Totally
Wow.
crazy.
So you just never know. So in a lot of your readings, sometimes do you people kind of walk away with, they've got all these things, signs that'll come up, and then you'll get an email like a couple weeks later, oh my gosh.
Well, here's what I tell my new clients. My existing clients already know this, but my new clients, I tell them, okay, first and foremost, there's going to be some things that make sense to you right away. There's going to be some things that you're going to hang up the phone and go, oh, that's what she's talking about. There's going to be a few things that'll hit you a week or two down the road. And then there's going to be some things that absolutely never make sense at all. We never figure out what they are. We just consider it Karen being Karen, and I goofed somewhere. Nobody's 100% accurate. I'm certainly not 100% accurate, but that's what I tell everybody. So they know going into it that, sometimes we get things really, really right. Sometimes we're close. I had another one time, Pete, and you can totally relate to this. I was connecting with a client, and her deceased dog's name was Chloe. And the whole time I'm talking to Chloe, it was like a little Lhasa Apso kind of fluffy little dog. And the whole time I was talking to her, she kept saying the word Skipper to me, Skipper.
Okay.
And this is Chloe, the dog. So she wouldn't tell me anything else about Skipper, so I didn't say anything. So throughout the session, Chloe, the little dog, kept saying the word Skipper or Skippy, something like that to me. So I ignored it. And I have a rule in my sessions. If I get a message 3 times, I need to pay attention. I need to say it, whether it makes sense to me or not. I need to say it. It's important. I keep getting it. So I asked my client, do you have somebody connected to you by the name of Skipper or Skippy? I keep hearing this name. And she goes, no. I said, yeah, I keep hearing this name, Skipper or Skippy. She's like, no, Karen, no, I don't have a Skipper. I don't have a Skippy. And I said, do you have something that's kind of close to that? And she went, oh my God, yes. She said, when I was a little kid, our family dog was named Nipper. Well, my brain was throwing it into the Skipper category because that's a far more common name. So my brain was auto-filling Skipper. So, there's a little bit of atmosphere that gets in the way sometimes when we do readings, and we don't always get things right. So this was such a cool moment for her because now she got to know that her beloved pet from childhood was coming through with a message for her. And here's me. I was like, I don't know who Skipper is, so I'm not saying anything to myself. And then thank goodness I said something.
Yeah. And that's a really cool story. And yes, I can totally relate to that. A lot of times I usually preface a reading with a client with, you might walk away today saying, what the heck just happened? But I'll send you pictures of my notes and drawings and all that. And
I know.
then my favorite thing is getting an email a couple weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this, and I asked this person about this, and then you get all the validation. I love when that happens. So
that's happy dance moment. That's when you get
exactly.
Happy dance.
That's one of the best things. So let me get to Michael White's question here.
Michael White.
Yeah, he's actually going to be on the show on January 26th. So,
Right on. I'm going to be watching.
Yeah, always enjoy talking to Michael. Although, much like Neil, after I'm done talking to Michael, I often then question everything I thought I knew.
I know that they have this other like whole thought process that isn't in my brain. So
yeah. So his question is, so 3 months ago, I had to put our 11-year-old dog to sleep. He suffered from arthritis so bad and finally lost the ability to stand. In his Colby, it's his name, his afterlife, is he as athletic as he used to be?
even more so. So they get to live their life in the prime of their life. So whatever you could picture them in as the prime of their life, that's how they are. They always come through to me whole. I have 2 cats right now that only have 3 legs. When they pass on, they will come through to me as complete and whole. And energetically speaking, they don't have a body. They're just energy.
Right.
So there's really no legs or eyeballs or anything because they're just energy. But yes, they would see themselves as whole anyhow. Like my 3-legged cats don't see themselves as 3-legged cats. That's my perception. They see themselves as perfect. So on the other side, yes, they would have all of those mobility abilities. That's a hard thing to say. They would have all of that back again. So we're all complete, no matter. I've got a one-eyed cat right now. I have quite a collection of critters right now, but Jack is still alive, but when he goes on the other side, he will have full vision. He won't have eyes, but he'll be able to see with energy. They see without a body. They run without legs. They think without a brain. It's amazing. It's amazing what we do, Pete, isn't it?
Yeah,
explain that one to me, Michael White. How does that happen?
Don't get him started.
I know, right? Well, Karen, I'll explain to you.
Well, that makes me feel a lot better. And I don't know for anybody listening out there, if you've got pets that have disabilities or issues, it sure makes me feel a lot better, knowing that they'll, when they depart, they'll be whole and they will be, in the prime of their life. Like my dog Dino, he's been suffering with Cushing's disease for the last couple of years, and he's happy. He's a lab. He's he perks up when he sees us. He's like the Dino 5000 vacuum cleaner for my little girls when they eat. He cleans.
Yes.
He doesn't miss a session of that. But poor guy, he had a hard time getting around. His muscles are really wasting away and stuff. But he just still seems happy go lucky, and so it's nice to think that on the other side, when that time comes, that he's going to be in the prime of his life, which his favorite place is the beach, pooping in the seaweed. I know he's got some sort of obsession with it. So
love it.
but on that note, anyways, that makes me feel a lot better. And Michael does
poop and all kinds of fun stuff as an animal communicator, right?
Yeah. But Michael said thank you.
You're welcome, and I'm sorry about your loss, Michael. My heart goes out to you. I have another really cool story. Do we have time?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a cat story for all the cat lovers out there. I had a brand new client contact me, and she was very distraught. She was wanting me to connect with her departed cat. And this was a kitty that she had rescued. He was a stray, and so she had a real close connection with him. She was late to work one day, so she backed out of her garage and she accidentally backed over this kitty. He didn't die from that, but he later died from complications of that incident. So she was just racked with guilt and just beating herself up. It's terrible. I've had something similar happen, and it's just like, it's gut wrenching how to get through it. So in this cat shared all kinds of beautiful memories with me, the things that they used to do, and all of his favorite places that he would hang out, and their little morning ritual, and it was great. And throughout the session, remember I told you if I get things 3 times, I say them.
Right.
Well, I kept hearing clairaudience about an amputated leg. Talk about the amputated leg, the amputated leg, amputated leg. Well, I didn't want to just upset this client because she was already upset as it was, even though the messages coming through were very healing. But who wants to talk about that? And I figured the cat probably lost a leg when she ran over it. And I didn't want to upset her, so I wasn't saying anything about it. Well, I heard it 3 times, and I can't break my own rule. So I said to her, I'm really sorry to do this, and please, I'm not trying to upset you, but I keep getting this message and I have this rule. And I said, I keep hearing about an amputated leg. Do you understand that? Did your kitty pass? Did his leg have to be amputated? Total silence. And then she started crying. And I thought, oh my gosh, I blew it. I blew it. I blew it. I blew it. And she goes, Karen, oh my gosh, you don't know what you're saying right now. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling awful. Why did I say this? Why did I say this? She goes, no, no, no. You don't understand what you just did. You just completely changed everything. I said, why? She said, he didn't lose a leg. But she said 3 months after he passed away, the cat, I was in a horrific car accident and I had my leg amputated.
Oh my gosh.
So this kitty was more concerned about her leg and what happened to her than he was ever worried about anything that she had done to him. I felt her healing take place right there in that phone call. It was so powerful when she realized that the only way he would know this is if he were there with her through her rehabilitation with her leg gone by her side, completely and totally changed everything.
Oh my gosh. Well, what a interesting story. Wow. And I mean, do you just kind of soak all that healing energy in? I mean,
It's, it's hard for me to be speechless, but that was one of the times that I was speechless. I just couldn't believe what I had just said because that's not what I thought it was. So I thought it was the cat that had the leg amputated. So it was just to me, that is so pivotal. It sends such a powerful message to the rest of us. I mean, just take that into your own little personal experience and apply that.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about. That's why I love animal communication. That's why I want to teach others how to do this. That's why we need more animal communicators out there. There's so many people who are grieving, who need help. And that's my goal, is to help as many people as possible through my books and my coaching. And just knowing that, it's not what you think it is. That's your human perception. Animals don't see it that way.
That's amazing. And I love that you're, really diving in on the teaching and the coaching part of it, because I agree. Need more animal communicators. We need more people to accept their psychic gifts. And I think, overall, it helps society in general if we're all kind of, open to a higher level of being and a higher level of consciousness. And everything you're talking about is, I mean, I I feel it. It's like I can totally relate.
Yes.
And so, I'm kind of interested myself in learning more, because I've always felt a super connection with animals, growing up in a vet clinic, you know, I would hang out with the animals recovering from surgeries. I would hang out with them and pet them. And, you know, there was one cat that he wouldn't let anybody near him. He was an obsidian cat, and he would just growl and that's kind of how he talked. And then like he was cool with me. I could go up and pet him and, you know, hang out with him, but he wouldn't let anybody else near him, you know, and he was often boarded at the vet clinic. So he was there often. But, you know, I've always felt that special connection. So I want to look more into it as well. And I think I appreciate you so much for sharing all of the stuff that you've shared tonight. And we got to have you back because I feel like I didn't even get to half my
I
questions.
know. I have all these stories I want to share with you too, and it's like the time goes by so fast.
Yeah, but you know, thank you so much for sharing everything that you did. And for everybody out there, go to KarenAnderson.net. That's kind of like where you can get access to everything. Check out her app. Her workshop coming up on the 12th. We're going to be anxiously looking forward to the book, hopefully in June.
Yes.
And we'll definitely have you on for that. We'll definitely have you on when that comes out, if you'd like to come back. And
Yes, I would
um,
love it. Thank you.
awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you. And wish you a happy new year.
Thank you very much.
Um,
You too.
yeah, my next show next week will be on the flip side in 2021 with Ben Robison, and guy's amazing investigator and researcher. So definitely tune in next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Pacific on Let's Talk Radio. And Karen, I always leave the show with a toast. The past is history, the future is a mystery, but today's a gift because it's the present. Don't forget to live in the now, hug the ones you're with, virtually hug everybody else you can.
Hugs,
And
hugs, hugs.
yeah, virtual hug.
Virtual hug.
Yes. And again, thank you, Karen. Happy New Year's to all the listeners. Thanks so much for all the questions and the interaction tonight. It was awesome. So big thanks to all the listeners out there. And my name's Peter Orbea. It's the Paranormal Pete Show. We'll see you next Tuesday. Happy New Year. And thanks again, Karen.
Thanks, Pete. See ya.